Alright guys, so we're gonna go over, instead of writing the prompt that we have back in the classroom, we're going to take and just do a summary of each of the chapters that we've read. So we've read the first 3 chapters of The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. And so I found a couple of summaries, and we're going to kind of like put them together and come up with an analysis. Okay, so the first one that I want to take and read is a very short one on the first page here. Okay, and you have a highlighter. So when I say, or when you feel that you need to highlight something that's important that we should remember, I'd like you to use your highlighter. Okay, so make sure your highlighter's ready to be able to use. I also want to go over with you, we know no phones are away. We also know that when the time is up, that's when you are dismissed, right? Okay, so our very first part, the summary. So if we remember, 14-year-old Junior, right, he's the main character, was born with water on the brain. Okay, that is something that is important. So I would like you to take and highlight that where it's in the quotes and says, born with water on the brain. Okay, and that is with too much cerebral spinal fluid, which damaged his brain when he was an infant. He notes that it might be more specific to say that his brain was drowning in grease, but that this statement sounds too goofy. To say he was born with water on the brain seems more serious and poetic and accurate. Okay, so the very first thing that we learned in starting chapter 1, okay, if we see where it's the analysis part there, it says, the first thing Junior chooses to reveal about himself is his birth defect. Underline that or highlight that, birth defect. Nice job, Eric. I like how you the next one. It is to reveal right here, birth defect. Yep. There we go. And that shows that sense of being defective is a part of his identity. But also that he thinks of himself as someone who fights and beats the odds. He's also very aware of the way he presents this information and constructs his identity through this written diary. Okay, so birth defect, born with water on the brain. Do you feel there should be anything else that kind of stands out that describes our main character, Junior?
I think this affected this part of his identity.
Yeah, so what are you thinking? Should we underline that part?
Yeah.
So defective is part of his identity. Right here, part of his identity. So there's kind of a compare and contrast going on there, right? He feels like even though he's kind of defective, What else?
Mm,
It's right after how he identifies.
guess but he also thinks of himself as someone who fights and meets the odds.
Yeah, I think that might be an important aspect too, because as we get to know more about the character, as we're reading through the story, we're going to potentially see what else he's fighting for. Okay, so I would highlight that. Good job, Eric. All right. So, I'm going to look over at our other summary, which is on this page. And this one's a little bit more detailed. And it gives us more meat and potatoes to the chapter summary. Okay, so the first chapter was called The Black Eye of the Month Club. And remember, we talked about black eye, that probably means that he was being punched. Right, exactly. So why is he calling it the Black Eye of the Month Club? And as we were reading, we found out that there is certain things that are happening in his environment. Okay. So Arnold Spirit Jr., that's our main character's name, describes how he was born with excess cerebral spinal fluid, or water, on his brain. A surgery to remove the fluid during Junior's infancy is supposed to make him brain dead, but the complications turn out to be relatively minor. So, brain dead. So, I'm wondering if, because he ends up being more capable than what they originally thought, do you think that might go with one of our things that we highlighted on our other page? What do you think? We look back at our other page. What did you highlight that might go with that?
Probably what on
We have birth defect.
Right, so he has his birth
Born
defect.
water on his brain.
He's born with water on his brain. What else?
Fire.
Yup, and then
But also thinks of himself as someone who fights and beats the odds.
yes. So originally he was supposed to not really be functionable, right? So brain dead would mean like he isn't able to do a lot of things. Maybe not even breathe on his own. Definitely not be able to talk, or sometimes it affects hearing. So it would mean like almost ceasing to live.
Yeah.
But yet here he is, he's 14. So I would take and I would highlight on our page here where it says a surgery to remove the fluid during Junior's infancy is supposed to make him brain dead, but the complications turn out to be relatively minor. Okay, so that kind of supports our analysis over on our other page, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As he grows up, he ends up having 42 instead of 32 teeth. Oh my. When it comes time to have the extras removed, Junior learns Indian Health Services does major dental work only once per year. So, Junior has all 10 extra teeth pulled during one day. Have you ever had your teeth pulled?
Yeah, I got my wisdom teeth.
Oof.
Me too.
You too. How do you remember how that made you? All 4? Did you do all 4 too? Any extras that had to be pulled? They were like impacted?
No, the others no.
Oh. How did you feel after that? Drunk because of the anesthesia, probably,
Yeah.
right? Did you get put out, or did they just numb you and pull?
No, I got pulled out. And then he did the numbing.
Oh, goodness. Yikes. How about you? Did you go under? Yeah, I did too. I was a big baby about it. So think about how much pain you were in,
Yeah.
right, afterwards. So if we go back to our summary, and if we remember from reading our chapter, it says here where it says, so Junior has all 10 extra teeth pulled during one day. Junior's white dentist thinks Native Americans feel only half as much pain as white people. So he gives Junior only half the normal amount of Novocaine. Well, how do you feel about that?
Strange.
That is strange, right?
Yeah.
But remember, we talked about how there was those preconceived or kind of like myths out there that Native Americans, their senses are different. Because remember, we learned when we were watching our TED Talk video how they discussed the different ways that the Indians were tricked and hurt, and how they're perceived at getting drunk quicker when they're drinking. So do you feel like that's why this white dentist who is there to help on the reservation might feel that he only deserves half that normal? Yeah. So I'm gonna keep reading. In addition to having extra teeth, Junior is nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other. Oh my goodness. So remember, we were saying like each eye one can see closer and the other one sees farther away. So imagine the type of glasses. Says Indian Health Services only has one style of thick black eyeglass frames for him to choose. Eric, when you got your glasses, how many did you get to choose from? Just one or many? Yeah, many. Do you wear glasses?
No.
Have you ever worn glasses?
Well, I never glasses. Well, I did try glasses for the first time.
And did you only just choose one, or were you able to look at many?
Well, many, but that was still fine.
Yeah. So imagine only having that one choice.
Yeah.
And imagine that one choice just does not look good on you. So now you're sticking out in another way, right? So what else about him? He is very skinny, but has enormous hands and feet. Other kids make fun of him for the size of his head. So remember, he's born with that excess fluid on his brain.
Yeah.
And remember, in the book, it talked about his surgeries that he had to have to kind of drain that grease, because he was drowning in grease, right? So it's kind of that extra fluid because he was born with it, and it's always kind of there still, that it's kind of misshapen his head. So his head appears a little larger than normal. Okay, so this poor kid, right? He has so many things against him. So let's see what else in our summary of the Black Eye of the Month Club. So the most complications of Junior's brain damage, however, are his occasional seizures. Junior's brain is already bruised, and these seizures keep it from healing. He also has a stutter and lisp. Do you remember what a stutter is?
Yeah, it's like a person had a hard time to speak or trying to pronounce the word.
Yes, and sometimes they get stuck on a particular sound before they can spit out the whole word. Excellent. What about lisp?
Lisp, I don't know what lisp.
You don't know what. Do you, Eric, know what a lisp is? I don't think you guys were there when we discussed it. So a lisp is someone who like talks with their tongue. So they take and they have certain sounds that seem more emphasized. So a lot of times people with lisp have their S's or their P's. They sound like they are a little bit more heavier at the beginning of the word than it should be. So like snake, for instance, we just say snake and it would be like snake.
Yeah.
So it's just the way that their tongue is kind of formed and how they speak with their speech. So imagine having a lisp and a stutter at the same time. The other kids on the reservation, or the res, remember we talked about reservation, we learned about that in our TED Talk. The reservation is where Native Americans have their own type of government, their own type of living environment, and they are separate from white people, for lack of better words. Okay, so they don't have as much, which is sad. We talked about that. So the other kids on the reservation, or the res, call him offensive names and beat him up for it. This is why Junior belongs to the Black Eye of the Month Club. Okay, so it was exactly correct what Jasarian said when he stated, because he gets punched. Okay, Junior's favorite thing is to draw cartoons of himself, his friends, and his family. He draws because he thinks it might give him a chance to become rich and famous, and he wants to be rich and famous so he can leave the res one day. Okay, so let's go back through and let's highlight those important things. So we've already highlighted about the surgery, right? And that went with our highlighting over here as someone who fights and beats the odds.
Yeah.
What else kind of makes him stand out different from other characters that we came across? What are some of those things?
I guess his teeth.
His teeth. He ends up having 42 instead of 32. I would go back right there and I would highlight he ends up having 42 instead of 32. Good job. What else?
Well, my dog was like, Indian Health Services is a major thing to work, so, well, not that, but his definitely think that Native Americans only have it.
Yes, excellent. So Junior's white dentist thinks Native Americans feel only half as much pain as white people. Do you see it, Eric? And why is that something you think makes him stand out?
makes his eye get
Yes. Right.
close
The
and
two
other
different
eye goes
eyes.
back. Yes.
Yes. So that's our next part too, right? He looks different because he has the extra teeth, but also he has nearsightedness in one, farsighted in the other, and they only have that one thick eyeglass frames. So I would take and nearsighted in one eye, farsighted in the other, and I would put only style of thick black eyeglasses frames. Do you see where that is, honey? So, right here. Nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other. And then only one style of thick black eyeglass frames. Excellent. Okay, there's a couple more things that make him stand out. Maybe is that easy target for that Black Eye of the Month Club. What are those things?
He was very skinny.
Yes. What else?
I know his hands and feet. And other kids make fun of him.
Excellent. Yes, I would highlight that as well. That is something that we definitely should know about as something that stands out about our main character. Because this is going to be important. I would do the whole sentence. This is going to be important as we go along in the book and find out what ends up happening to him as we go along. All right, and then the next part of that summary talks about the complications of his brain damage. So what else makes him take and stand out?
He has paranoid seizures.
Okay. Yep.
The brain was
Yes, you could highlight, Junior's brain is already bruised. Okay, you can take and say they keep it from healing. Do you see that, Eric? Good job, bud. You could just highlight that whole next part up to the period there. Yep. And then what else? What else kind of makes him stand out?
He also has a stutter and lisp.
Also that stutter and lisp. Okay, so when he tries to speak, so not only does he look funny, he talks funny, right?
Yeah.
And then what do they end up doing to him?
They beat him up because of how the way he was and calling offensive names.
Yes, excellent. I would highlight that as well. Do you see it? Yep. And so this explains why he belongs to that Black Eye of the Month Club. That is definitely very important. It ties in with that title of the chapter as well. And it kind of sets the tone of what makes Junior Junior. Okay? Alright. What is one thing that he does to kind of utilize as like a coping skill? So think about some of the coping skills that we might use if we have certain things going on in our life. What does he take into it?
Likes to draw cartoons of himself, his friends, and family.
Excellent. He does that. And I think that's kind of his outlet. Okay. And then last but not least, what is that one major reason why he feels his drawings could help him out later in life?
Because one day he will become rich and famous.
So he can do what?
To lead the restaurant.
Excellent. That is super important as well. I would definitely take and highlight that. It's the very last sentence, Eric, in that. Very cool. Beautiful. So, do you feel that you can relate to Junior?
Pretty much you
Is there something that you may have experienced, like being made fun of before, like Junior is? Because maybe you like something different from other people. Like, I know at certain points in time, people were made fun of because they liked anime. I don't know if that's still the case because I'm not young anymore, but I feel like anime's huge now, and so everybody's into anime. Drawing, I feel like that could definitely be more looked at as a positive now. We already know you're a beautiful artist. You don't want to use that to become rich and famous. You want to use your other talents by being a construction worker, with your building. But maybe at some point you can marry those two, right? And be an architect to have those houses built, and they'll be beautiful pieces of art. Eric likes to draw as well. Our posters in the classroom, what is always on them? Awesome different things that depict what it is that we are trying to inform people about. So Eric is also a great artist. Do you have anything that you can think of that you might take and relate to Junior, Eric? Just because maybe wearing glasses, I don't know if a lot of your friends wore them. Certain points in time when you're younger, they make fun of you for wearing glasses. Maybe they don't now, but maybe you never experienced that. But I know, like, that was a big, huge thing when I was younger. Did that ever happen to you? Did your friends make fun of you because you had to wear glasses all of a sudden? Well, that's awesome. I love how accepting your friends are. Alrighty. So, our next chapter. So our next chapter is Why Chicken Means So Much to Me. Why do we think chicken means so much to him? Why do we think the chicken means so much to him? Do you guys remember? No? That's okay. That's why we're doing this. This is great. Alright, so if we turn to, oops, I went too far for you. I apologize. Here we go. Chapter 2. So chapter 2, we look at our first page, okay? we see that it talks about, oh, did you not find it? Here, let's get you. Yep. There's this one and that one. Alright. Sorry about that, Eric. So one thing Junior's cartoons can't do is alleviate his family's poverty. And what does poverty mean? Do you remember? I'm reading off of this one, sweetheart.
I know what it is, because it's been a while I haven't heard that word for a while.
So he wants to become rich and famous.
Yeah.
So what does poverty mean if you take and you think about that? If he wants to become rich and famous,
Yeah.
what does poverty mean? What do you think, Eric? So let's read a little bit more. Maybe it will give us a little insight. So if we continue on with our summary right there, it says, for all his talent, Junior is really just a poor-ass reservation kid living with this poor-ass family on the poor-ass Spokane Indian Reservation. So what does poverty mean? Poor, right? So we see now why he aspires to become rich and famous. We're getting to know him a little bit more. So if we look over on the next page of that same area, it says Junior draws cartoons, especially cartoons of his friends and family, because he finds words too limited and unpredictable. In contrast, everyone in the world can understand a picture. So if we look at that analysis, it says Junior's cartoons are closely connected to his human relationships. So remember, we're talking about that coping skill. So he uses them to show how he feels about people and also to bring people together. Drawing, he feels, can transcend things like class and race. Okay? So he's aware that living on the reservation, he doesn't have as many opportunities. He is already treated differently because he's Indian, Native American. And then he, on top of that, he has all those other things that he has to take and deal with, right? So, I feel that this explanation, and you guys tell me what you think, that the reason why he draws those cartoons is because he can't use his words very well, that he's able to talk using his pictures. Right? So I would highlight on this page, Junior draws cartoons. And then I would go to where it says, because he finds words too limited and unpredictable. Did you find it, honey? Awesome. And then, so what does that mean? What is it? The last sentence of that say?
Predictable.
The last sentence after that part.
So in contract, which everyone can understand the picture.
Right. Excellent. I would totally highlight that as well. Okay, because that also gives him that identity. we go further down, okay, in the middle of the page there, it says, drawing also makes Junior feel important, as if he could grow up to be somebody famous. His artistic talent might be the one real chance he has to escape the reservation. He states, I think the world is a series of broken dams and floods, and my cartoons are my tiny lifeboats. Okay, we talked about that being a metaphor when we read it fully in class. Right? He's saying his world right now is broken, but those drawings kind of help him escape.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think we should highlight as something that kind of stands out, feels important about learning about Junior?
One.
You highlight the statement that he made.
I like the statement he made too. Yes. So he states, and then I would just whatever's in quotes. You see that? Right here, sweetie. Alright, so this analysis says Junior hopes that drawing could make it possible for him to transcend his own class and race as well. The metaphor of lifeboats dramatizes this point and links to the idea of saving yourself, and that Mr. P will bring up later on. Okay, Mr. P is his teacher, remember? And after his long description of his handicaps, it is a significant that Junior takes such pride in his cartoons. This is the key thing, guys. It shows his resilience. Remember those odds, and he wants to beat those odds, and he feels he can kind of fight back and kind of show himself.
Yeah.
So I think that really, really should be something that's underlined. How do you feel? Do you think there's anything else that kind of pops out in that analysis there that you feel should?
Yes, it's the idea of saving yourself.
I love that too. Yes. So saving yourself, it shows his resilience. The very last full sentence in that little area there. Do you see there? Yeah, that's it. And then there's something else. What is his reason for wanting to become rich and famous?
To leave the rise.
Right. So I would think transcend his own class and race as well. So that it would be in the first sentence. It's right up in there. Do you see it?
Transcending.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna talk about one more thing, and then we're gonna kind of close, and we will end up continuing talking about chapter 2 tomorrow and finding out why chicken means so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so far we have learned about his drawing, the reasons he does it. We are going to find out too, because he is, how did he describe it? Here it is. He wants to alleviate his family's poverty. For all his talent, Junior's really just a poor-ass reservation kid living with his poor-ass family on the poor-ass Spokane Indian reservation. So, how do you feel that kind of resonates or kind of gives the title for the second chapter, why chicken means so much to me. Why do you feel so far that has meaning? You know, he's poor.
Because I thought chicken would mean like hunger.
Yes, that definitely points to his hunger. Can we talk about tomorrow how there might be another hunger he has? What do you think that other hunger might be? What does he want to take and do?
Leave.
Yes! Excellent, excellent. He definitely wants to leave, so he has a different type of hunger as well. Love it! You guys, that was awesome. Tomorrow we'll continue. I'm going to write a little note to myself that that's where we're going to start talking about, is that other hunger that he may be referring to. Thank you so much. And
What means for the school?
yeah,
And big house.
yes,
And big house.
yes. Why not? Thanks, guys.
You're